Hey, Brandon here. This is channeled advice on the week ahead, and this is for Monday, October 28th through November 3rd. How are you doing? I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time from my spirit guides, the angels and source for you. And I'll also be rolling with any additional channeled information from my spirit guides, the angels and source, and any additional information from my intuition as we're reading through these for you. Okay, so the first thing they'd like me to get to today for you on the channel advice on the week ahead, let me see where they'd like me to start. I'll just start with number one. They gave me the word money and they just asked, where are you depriving yourself in your life in any way? And that, well, I'll just keep reading. Now is a great time to give to yourself and ensure your needs and even desires are being met. Where can you give to yourself with ease this week? How can you up that game a little bit? How can you nourish yourself so you are attracting better? And that is one of the keys. How can you nourish yourself so you are attracting better? Sometimes we don't realize our energies impact the whole. So if we're operating in a depleted state and we're not receiving, we're not nourishing ourselves, we're not getting ourselves to a good place, we might not to limit it, we might not be attracting the best if we are not doing our part to nourish ourselves. And that can potentially influence money and money flows. It can influence what's showing up in your world. And you know what? Your vibration is impacting the whole. So if you're not nourishing you and your vibration and getting that to a good place, what are you attracting? What are you creating? How are you then impacting your world through your vibration? They're telling me to tell you, and this came through in a number of different ways. This came through from my spirit guides in one of the podcast episodes recently where they kept talking about, I think they were mentioning, this is more in an indirect way, I'm paraphrasing it, like taking care of yourself and raising your vibration to begin to attract difference. If you're feeling stuck was one of the pieces of advice. I'm paraphrasing the heck out of it. I was also listening to or reading a channel from Lee Harris and his guides, and they were mentioning, or maybe it was a post he made that was quoting his spirit guides. And it was something along the lines of like, your vibration really does impact the world, your world, what can show up for you. So I think literally in the quote, they were talking about how some people might get annoyed when spirit guides or people harp on raising your vibration. It's just like it really does impact things. And nourishing yourself is one way you can raise your vibration, attract better. And this is going to sound like a weird quote. Show the universe that you're worth taking care of. And the universe knows this anyways. It's not dumb. It's not like, oh, you don't take care of yourself. That means I don't take care of you. But it does help the universe take care of you if you are taking care of yourself, okay? And it will just help you in general. So, how can you nourish yourself more? And ask your body what it needs every day. Ask your soul what it would like every day. And it might surprise you that it says play. I'm getting to tell you this. One of the messages I was getting for myself recently, because my partner facilitated a Reiki session for me, and it was one of the messages I was getting while they were facilitating it. And they said they got a similar message too for me is they'd like me to tell you the exact quote. And this was for me. Okay. So see how it resonates for you. It was, if you're not playing, you're not working. And they were literally telling me, play video games more. And that sounds so counter what maybe a lot of people say in the spiritual field, because how many people who identify as spiritual are actually just judging everything dynamically, and they're like, oh, beer is inherently bad, video games inherently bad and not spiritual, money inherently bad and not spiritual. But these things, if we're working with them correctly, could actually be good for us if it's what our body's asking for, if it's what our soul is asking for, if it's what the universe is trying to give to us through in some way, shape, or form. And maybe I'm not saying this perfectly in a way all of you will quite understand or get it. And maybe it's because I said something about an alcoholic beverage. And what I'll say to that, what I'm getting to say is sometimes your body might surprise you what it's asking for when you actually get in tune with it and channel and get the accurate information from it. And it's important not to judge it, because then if you're judging it, you might not be receiving or allowing in the things that are actually going to shift things for you or make a difference, because you're too busy judging it because of what this person thinks or said, or what this person who identifies as spiritual sad or something else. So, can you allow in the accurate, intuitive information without judging, no matter who it seems to go against, and allow that to make your world greater as you own your power with that instead of being disempowered by everyone else's beliefs, which aren't necessarily the truth. Okay. Number two, they said, what have you been putting off that it's time to do? Let it percolate, this question. And they also showed me elephant, corn, like a cornfield, an actual cornfield, the actual plant. The word wisdom was another thing they showed me. And also intelligence is showing up here. So the message, I'm wondering if there are any messages with those signs or if they're just signs they wanted to give regarding this message. And I'll ask them about that in a second or let them channel on it in a second. The message is it's time to hit procrastination head on and really tackle the things you've been putting off, especially in like business is something they're showing me if you have a business or certain work related things. Many times that is the thing that will move the needle, the thing you're procrastinating. Even if it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, and we'll talk about that. Where are you putting off what doesn't need to be put off? It's time to take action. And that's another key. It's time to take action. And this is not necessarily a week where we have to act all the time or else. There is a certain element of rest that's important this week, mixed in with taking action, hitting procrastination head on, or using the tools we need to use to overcome procrastination, at least enough to get the needle moving, to get the ball rolling. Mm, because, rest could be a way we're nourishing ourselves, going back to number one. There's a lot of stories they want me to tell you, actually, kind of going back to that. One time there was a channeled reading of sorts I did on TikTok, and it was channeling the consciousness of money to see what money would like to tell that group who was watching that video about how to have more of it. And one of the things that came through for that video was money was like, hey, rest, take care of yourself. As you rest, money flows to take care of you too, or something like if you take as you take care of yourself, money flows to take care of you too, as long as you're willing to receive, is what they're adding in. And it was funny because I that popped up for one time while I was kind of scrolling and looking at my videos, or sometimes the universe will like accidentally have you a thumb slip to open a video you need to see or a reading you need to see, even if it's your own thing you channel, because that can apply to you too when you're meant to see it. And I was like really wanting to work that day or night, and I really had a pattern to undo about maybe overworking at the time or thinking, oh, this is the only way I have to work hard all the time. That's the only way to make things happen, which isn't necessarily true. And that's a whole other conversation we could get into as well, because that will help some of you at least, is what I'm getting. Anyways, I saw that reading and I was like, okay, I get it. I'm kind of burning the midnight oil. I'm trying to work when it might not be time. So I'm going to rest, like that video said. And it was really funny because when I did that, when I woke up the next day, I had like a bunch of people booked or like purchased things from me, and I had a lot more money come in. So, taking care of you doesn't have to be a hard thing, is something that they're kind of having me add in. It can just be following your intuition with like, what do I need right now? And what is it time for? What is it not time for? And heeding that instead of trying to override our intuition or knowing or divine guidance with what we think we need to do or think should be done based on everyone else's projections, fears, etc. Okay. So hopefully that verifies that more for you or explains that better for you if you needed that. So, anyways, coming back to procrastination here. mm, One thing I can talk about that's popping in to be talked about is even with little things like tidying our room or mailing mail that we have been needing to mail and have been putting it off, whether it's a thank you note or something like that, or yeah, again, like tidying a space. There was this exercise that I took. I think it was like a Lee Harris exercise or something. I know I refer to him a lot, and that's okay. It's what I'm being guided to do, so I won't judge that. I'll allow that intuitive information through. And it was for abundance. And he was at the end of this abundance meditation or whatever. He was like, "Okay, your homework is to go do something you've been putting off that you need to do, even if it's small, like." Organizing your desk or cleaning out your car or something like that. And what he was talking about was as we take care of those things, it makes space for that abundance to come in because we don't have that locked energy of, oh, I need to do this and I haven't done it. And oh, there's all this thing I'm putting off. And you don't have to get into like, oh, you're so wrong for not having done that yet. Like there could be a reason, it could be, there could be a lot of different reasons we do certain things and they're not all like bad per se. It could be like, well, maybe it wasn't the divine timing for that letter to get to that person. Like we can get into all that. However, if anything's coming up for you, like, oh yeah, I have been meaning to mow the lawn or I have been meaning to call this person or pay this bill or whatever, maybe now's the time to kind of get on the ball with even those small things and open up space for you to receive and for new things to come in and get the energy moving in your life. So things can just be moving, Sometimes it's as simple as getting the energy moving and getting things flowing for things to start flowing. That sounds really silly and obvious. However, I think people kind of don't always think about it that way. They're just like, I don't want to do that right now. And then they don't. And then I don't want to do that the next day. And then they don't. You know what I'm kind of saying? So that's kind of what they mean about procrastination. It could be a big thing. It could be a project. It could be something you've been getting to do and you just haven't been doing it. And it could be little things. So what can you do to overcome procrastination if you've been putting things off, even if it's cleaning the house or something like that? Or applying for jobs or applying for a new home or whatever it is. Number 3, anything else with number 2 here? They're showing me elephant here, and this elephant, they're showing it with like a little dusting brush or thing, and it's trunk, and he's cleaning your home, and this intuitive visual, and like they are specifically giving me the word clean. So one of the messages is like, what is a room or area or thing you could clean that would make you feel better energetically? And can you get on the ball with that this week and see what that opens space for, or see how that makes you feel different or helps you to attract different? Sometimes the objects and things we surround ourselves with or our environments can really help our energies feel and even be different. And we can start attracting different things. They're telling me to give you another example. So, all right, here's another example. They're telling me to tell you about this book. It's Right Riches for You. It's by Dr. Dane Here and by Gary Douglas, and that's an Access Consciousness book. And one of the things they talk about is when you go to buy something, you ask that item, like, will you make me money if I buy you? And it's not like a linear thing where it's like the car is going to go get a job and make you money. It's like, it's kind of like the sum total of like, it could even just be the consciousness and energy of that car. It somehow attracts money into your life for you. And there's like a lot of different ways I could talk about it. I'd like to be free from limiting it for you and your understanding, because it's kind of infinite and unlimited, and it doesn't have to make cognitive sense for it to work, okay? And some of it could be you buy a car that you're getting to buy, and that the car consciousness, when you talk to the consciousness of the car, or maybe your guides will tell you, if you ask your guides, will this make me money if I buy it? Whatever works for you regarding it, for you to get the accurate information. You get it will make you money. You're getting it would be for that. It's good to get it. You go through your process for getting, you know, working with your intuition on it, and then you get it. And it might be people judge you and project that you are successful and have money, and that actually moves the energies in a way where you start to attract more money because people are judging that you have more money. It's one of the things they talk about in the book, interestingly enough. And it could be other things. It could be you buy clothes that you're getting will make you money. And then whenever you wear them, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm rich. Oh, awesome. And you start feeling wealthy yourself and being in an energy of wealth yourself. And that attracts more money, in addition to maybe other people judging you as having money based on what you're wearing. In addition to maybe it just brings you money because you gave it a job, as they say in the book, like when you asked it if it would make you money if you bought it. So a lot of different ways we could talk about that, a lot of different angles, probably maybe even beyond what I mentioned here as ideas for it, both that they had in the book and that I'm getting to say right now. And for some reason, that's something they wanted me to get into, along with that clean message of like how our environment can attract different energies or move the energies in our world, or maybe manifest or actualize certain things for us, or create certain things. So maybe play with that and see like, oh, how do people judge me when I wear this thing or when I have this thing? Like, what can it contribute to you in your world if you don't judge it? Okay. Um, And I wouldn't be afraid of people's judgments or projections. It's more like, how can you play with it in your favor in a way that's for the highest good. Because people are going to judge anyways, so it might as well. And yeah, I'm slightly borrowing that from that book and other things like that, but it's what I'm being guided to say. So I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to bring it through. Number 3 here, kind of on that same vein, actually. This is funny. They gave me the color blue. They said, "What are your mood boosters?" So, what are the things you can put on that put you in a better mood, or maybe surround yourself with? What are the things you can start your day with that bring you joy? It's time to put in place the habits that will bring you joy. So, my guides have been talking about this a lot in some of these videos and other, like in the podcast, I think, even in different ways, where it's like, how can you commit? It's one way to think about it. How can you commit to certain frequencies? Like if you'd like to be joy or bring in joy, what can you do every day that brings in joy or moves the energies towards joy for you? Whether you're feeling that joy in the moment doing that thing or not, you know? It's more like, can you put on a meditation for joy every day, whether you're in joy or not, and move the energies that direction and have it manifest at the right time for you? And it could be right away. And every time you do it, there's joy, and the joy just keeps spilling over into the rest of your world because you're doing something that brings joy your way every day or has you generating joy every day. And it's kind of like that. It's just also considering like, and there's a siren outside, which is confirmation. Like you could do that with peace. You could do that with abundance. You could do that with money. You could do that with your gifts and your channeling and intuition. Especially if you're patient sometimes, if it's not happening right away, which it can happen right away. Okay. I'm not going to limit it. It's just, I think sometimes people quit too early with these things, is what I'm getting to say. And they don't always give it time to work. Like they don't try it for at least a month or 3 or 6 months. They just try it for a day and they're like, I don't like it. And then they stop doing it. It's like, or, a few days and then they kind of drop off with it and then they try it halfway again and then they're like, meh. So it's like, how can you actually commit to the things you're guided to commit to or would like to commit to or would like to bring in and really do what it takes to bring those things in, whether it's totally full of ease and simplicity and it takes 5 minutes a day, or it maybe takes a bit more work on some things, not to limit it or put that on it. Just are you willing to do what it takes, for some of these things if you're really serious about them or you'd really like them? So simple, complex, whatever it is. Anyways, you are kind of being guided with this to look at what is going to put you in a better mood and do that consistently. And maybe that's also just like staying off of social media in the morning or certain times or staying off of certain social media sites that are always kind of a bummer. Maybe it's turning off the news, as my guys had talked about and a lot of people talk about. Because the news isn't necessarily true and they're trying to get people to watch it so they can have money from like commercials and things like that. So they're going to do a lot of what it takes to get your attention, even if it's lies or it's certain spins on stories that get people into fear. And they're like, oh, they kind of get into this zone of like, I need to watch this or something terrible is going to happen to me, which is the lie. That's a lie. And how many people don't watch the news and are totally fine? And how much of the news and what they talk about is even relevant to you in your life directly in the first place? Probably very little, for most people. So I'd kind of just keep that all in mind because there are a lot of limiting beliefs and stories that are spun through things like the news that you just don't need. And you don't need any type of limitation being sold to you by any being or anything. Okay. So number 4 here, they showed me a spider and it was about being spread thin. So where are you spreading yourself too thin? Where do you need to take a break? Where are you not giving yourself the peace and space you need? There is something that's calling your focus. And if you're spreading yourself too thin, you might not notice is something that came through with this message. So what's calling your focus that you're not noticing? Just put that question out there to the universe. So is it a project? Is it a person that the universe is like, hey, call this person? Maybe they have a job for you if you're looking for a job or something like that. Not to put that on it, just an example popping through. And also, like, are you spreading yourself thin right now? I really get that most of you are in some way, and it might be kind of under the surface of maybe what you would consider your awareness. And you don't realize you're doing it. And it could be energetically. It could be you're spending too much time with friends. You're not getting enough time for you. It could be you're working on too many things. And Sometimes it's fine if you're working on like 20 things at once. If it works for you and you're in flow with it and it makes you feel alive and things are getting done, awesome. I guess the question is what's optimal for you, regarding all that. It's not to limit you. So just see if you are spread too thin somewhere. And maybe it's even like where you're putting your focus. Like, are you paying attention to too many different spiritual people and getting spread too thin between different perspectives and beliefs? And it's not allowing you to come back to you and get what's true for you so you can move forward in the optimal ways for you over other people's perspectives? Or is it like too many business courses and they're all kind of conflicting and you're like, not sure what to do in my business anymore? And you need to kind of focus on the ones that really work for you right now, which might be important for a lot of people right now is like what's working, focus on that, pare away the things that aren't, and you'll have a much more effective life, you know? So, number 5 here, they show me a dragon, and the question is, where's the magic? Whenever you notice magic, acknowledge it, thank it, and ask for more. The more you are moving towards where the magic is, the better things are going to be for you. So, where has synchronicity been? Where have things been flowing magically or miraculously? How can you get into that energy of magic more? That is their advice. They said, that is our advice. So, in the end of this one, pretty straightforward to me. It's like sometimes we have something that's flowing magically, and then we think, oh no, I can't work on this. I need to work on this thing that I think is going to make me money, or I think it's going to work better, or my friends would like me to work on this. And then it's kind of like you're pulling yourself away from what's flowing, and that the universe and your knowing are saying, like, hey, no, this is the path, regardless of what anyone else wants or wants you to do, or whatever you think is going to work when we know what's going to work and we're guiding you to what's working. So, where is the magic for you? And it could even be like with friends. Maybe there are certain friends you're with and it's really magical and awesome. And then other people you're like forcing yourself to be around and it's really like dull and like low vibe. And you're like, "Bleh," but you're like, oh, I have to do. Well, is it true you have to? Or is there a way you can set a boundary and not spend as much time or change things around in your life so you're not where the magic isn't as much? And it's not like your life is going to tank if that happens sometimes, and sometimes we're in a room where like, oh, we have to visit family, and there is a lot of magic and synchronicity if you pay attention, and maybe you're the one bringing the magic, and that's okay too if that's where you're supposed to be in that moment or what's going to work best in that moment. It doesn't mean the magic's not there, even if it's not the room you would most like to be in at that time, on a different level. So just move towards the magic. I feel like it's really simple. Like move towards the things that are lighting you up and the things that are flowing and the things that are working and the things that the universe is like, yes, over here. And stop questioning that if you can, so that you can allow your most magical life. So they'd like me to move on to the next one. The next one, own your value. The message, please review your life and see where you need to own your value more. It will change everything if you are owning your value in the ways you need to in every area. Owning your value can literally be the difference between make or break. So please put your awareness on this and see what shows up for you. You are being called to own your value this week and beyond in every area. Honor you, own your value. And this can even circle back to number 1. Where are you depriving yourself in your life in any way? Because if you're owning your value, you're not going to be depriving yourself. That's including money, that's including love, that's including with the people you're surrounding yourself with and how they treat you. And I realize sometimes certain people are in a job, in a situation where it's difficult to just switch it and flip it right away. I understand. How can you own your value in other areas in the meantime to let that energy percolate into your world more and to move the energies in that direction so it starts to spill over into your workplace and shift things for you? Because it's about your energies in this instance as much as anything else, is what I'm getting with this own your value piece. So, what can you give to yourself to own your value? What can you give to your body to own your value? If you have a business, do you need to raise your prices as far as the universe is showing you to raise your prices? And sometimes, if you're not sure, well, let me see. This advice might not be for all of you right away. One thing that's worked for me regarding pricing things for me is when people show up and they're like, hey, you need to raise your prices for this. You're not charging enough. And that's my sign for me where it's like, okay, I need to raise my prices. Even if it's my mom who calls me and they're like, hey, I really feel called to say that I'm looking at your website and like your prices, and it doesn't seem like because that has happened, funny enough. And it was in addition to other clients saying, wow, you don't charge enough. There's other people charging way more and they're not nearly on your level. So, that could be a sign for you if you're getting that information somehow. It could just be your spirit guides like, hey, raise your prices. And then when you do, they're like, thank you for owning your value. Like there's different things that could happen. Or if you're considering prices and you're like, oh, and horn outside, you're like, oh, what if I charge this much? And the spirit guides are like, yes, that would be owning your value. Like, okay, cool, we can charge that much. So, but the other thing is like, where are you owning your value with how people are treating you? Like, do you hang around friends who constantly demean and belittle you? And even if that's the dynamic of the group, it's like, oh, we're just that way. Is it really what you'd like? And what is that really telling? What is that doing to you? What is that like telling you about yourself if you're putting yourself in groups that constantly like make fun of you or treat you crappy, or even with people who talk bad behind your back and you know this on some level? Is that owning your value to keep surrounding yourself with that? No. And again, sometimes there are situations like family gatherings where it's like, okay, well, I'll just be here for this day and then I'm out, and that is what it is. Um, what I'm hearing is like you kind of have to pay attention to where is the energy of owning your value and how can you bring that in more to shift your life, because that can also impact your frequency, and it's going to allow the universe to give to you more if you're in that energy of owning your value in whatever capacity you can manage today, tomorrow, every day after that. And it could be in subtle ways, it could be in big ways, it could be are you buying the organic foods your body is asking for? Are you saying, like, I can't afford that extra dollar, which is probably not true, for an organic thing is going to be good for your body? And trust yourself with where you're at with your money and your intuition with all that as well. I'm not saying to ignore your intuition. I'm just putting this out there that owning your value is going to make things better for you. Okay. I want to see if there's anything else I'd like to say about that. I feel like I've kind of beat it to a pulp. So they're going back to Dragon, or there's an additional message, and there's this message about trailblazing. Like, now is the time for trailblazing for most in this crowd. So if you're doing things that no one's ever been doing before, or no one else is doing it, that's great. You're on the right track with that. Keep going. And sometimes trailblazing is the correct path for us if we're here to do something new or bring something new to the world, because no one's ever done it before. And that could be something that changes the world, is if you're trailblazing a new path with what you're doing, facilitating with the way you're being guided to do things. And sometimes people might be tempted to judge it as less if they're doing something that's never been done before because it seems untested, or they're like, oh, but everyone else is doing it this way. And maybe if you do it the way you're guided and trailblaze, everyone will be doing it your way if they're seeing that it works. So I'm not promising that. It's just something to keep in mind. Like, maybe your way is better, and you can at least try it and see if you're guided, if it agrees with your intuition, and see what happens before you try to and train to and go along with everyone else's what they're doing, which they might just be copying other people, and they might not realize what they're doing, for some of them. So they're saying they're done. I hope that helped, resonated to whatever was for your highest good. They're actually showing me a castle. They're showing me Princess Peach's castle from like Super Mario 64 or something like that as well. It's actually, so they're adding in a message about owning your power. Funny enough, and maybe some people clicked away when I said that's it. And now this is for you who are here. um, the message is like, how can you own your power and protect your castle? And that's what that means is your relationships, your business, your life, your circumstances in a way that's empowering to you and for your highest good. Um, because there might be people who are trying to sway you out of your power with the things they're convincing you to do, or the ways they're trying to convince you to do things, because maybe they even know you can succeed at something. And your job is to be the general, or maybe the king or the leader or whatever of your castle, and trust your divine guidance and intuition, or trusting yourself with what works, and going the directions you're being guided to go with things, instead of taking outside advice that's not going to help, at this time, regarding whatever your castle is symbolizing: a business, a relationship, a home, a job, workplace situation, etc. So be the king of your castle right now, and I wouldn't be letting people invade with their advice that might have you like step outside of the castle so they can take it for themselves or something like that. Kind of a weird message showing up. So just make sure you're owning your power and intuition and owning your value and keeping your castle, whatever that's representing for you in this, in a good place. It's not to freak you out. It's just keep your wits about you, okay? Regarding anything you're building and anything you got going on in your life that you like. And it is what it is. Sometimes people don't like to see us succeed, and maybe they don't think they can, or they aren't willing to choose success for themselves. So they'll just tear everyone else down. And if you if you look at social media, there are tons of people who hate people who are wealthy or doing well or succeeding. And there's not really a reason for them to. It doesn't actually harm them for other people to succeed or have abundance at all. So they're kind of being selfish. And even if they think it's taking away from them, it's really not. Like they have all the choices in their world to move towards abundance, whether it's a step every day or multiple steps or small steps or big steps. They have the chance to make their world great. And if they're not taking it, it's not on you to appease them. Okay. And it never was. And if you're trying to live by everyone else's judgments and projections and hurts that they're kind of choosing based on their stories, even if they'd rather you think you're the one causing it by having abundance that doesn't have anything to do with them, so that they can control you and stop it, and trying to play a victim to, you know, use a story to nudge you out of your power potentially. Still not your job to appease that or them, and it's probably better you're owning your power, okay? One of the points is if you're living to appease those people and their judgments and projections and stories and whatever, you're not necessarily in your power and you're not necessarily choosing for you and your life in a way that's going to make you and your life greater and make things better for you. And so appeasing people's judgments is kind of a disempowered place to be. Okay. So, anyways, I hope that kind of all got to everything appropriately. And I hope this helped, resonated to whatever was for your highest good. If you'd ever like to go further with my work, you can join me in the Let's Go Higher membership, where I have a lot of full channel mode sessions, channel guided meditations that are exclusive for the membership, as well as channeled readings on the month ahead that's exclusively for members and the people showing up for that, as well as channeled lives that we do where members submit questions and I channel messages on them, as well as additional channel messages in full channel mode, messages that would be for the highest good for the members. And those are pretty much timeless. So, or they are timeless. So you might go back to all the previous month's lives and get good things and good information out of that for you to help your world, at the time you're watching those. And there's a lot more content in the membership as well. So you can check that out on my website, brandonhbloom.com. I also have channeled life coaching as well as channeled and intuitive private readings you can book with me. I also opened up private energy healing classes. So if you are itching for, to learn Reiki, for example, and you don't feel like waiting for a group class, you can jump on my website and book an energy healing class that's one-on-one with me, whenever it's available on the scheduler, instead of having to wait for me to set up a certain class that you've been waiting for. So that's available too. And I have so much more. There's channeled MP3s with full channel mode sessions that are designed to move the energies in your world and manifest things, facilitate healing for the highest good, as well as deliver messages and information that's helpful for you around certain topics. And I have a few of those, so you can find that on the store on brandonhbloom.com, and I'll let you take a look at all that if that calls to you. You can also sign up for my free newsletter to know when new videos like this come out and when new podcast episodes come out, as well as you get exclusive discounts. And if you're looking to book a reading, you get a 10% discount code for your next service or class with me when you sign up for the free newsletter. So there's that as well. And I've mentioned the podcast a few times. However, I do have the Channeling Source podcast that goes out every other week with a new episode. And you can find that on YouTube and the playlists on my accounts. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So there's probably more I could refer you to. There's FullAYouArtandCrystals.com. I'll let you look in the description for all that if you're interested. And for FullAYouArtandCrystals.com, if you would like some crystals, I have some cool pieces up there for sale. And I also have channeled energy healing symbols with channeled and intuited art that you can find art prints for and purchase those and put those in your space and have those symbols and the channeled frequency and the art doing whatever is for the highest good for it to do for you and your space and your world. So you can take a look at all that. And I'm wishing you well.